अस्सलाम वालेकुम। क्या हाल चाल है? उम्मीद करता हूँ ठीक होंगे, खैरियत से होंगे। मेरा नाम है जमी और मेरे साथ हैं शहजाद। तो आज की वीडियो का टॉपिक कुछ यूँ है, इमरान खान गिफ्ट स्कैंडल एपिसोड 53 CFTV मेजर गौरव आर्या। तो जी आज का जो एपिसोड है ये देखते हैं, एंड पे देखिए अपना रिएक्शन। अगर आप हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं तो हमारी वीडियोस को लाइक करें, शेयर करें, सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल का आइकन दबाना मत भूलिए। शुरू करते हैं, लेट्स स्टार्ट।
Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Today I have with me a very special guest from Pakistan. She's a journalist and you've seen her on Indian television, a very regular face. I warmly welcome Mona Alam to the show. Mona ji, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. Pleasure being
Mona ji,
here.
Mona ji, my first question to you is, very recently the President of Pakistan, he said that he was not going to, be there when the oath-taking ceremony of the Central Cabinet was being conducted. And I think Mr. Sanjrani, who's the chairman of the Senate, he was the one who conducted it. Now, when we say speaker or deputy speaker or the president of a nation, they are supposed to be beyond party loyalties. That is the understanding of parliamentary democracy. That is my understanding. Why has this happened that you have the deputy speaker, the speaker, and even the president of, because he's the head of Pakistan? Why have they chosen to take a party line? Because that is the understanding that a neutral observer like me gets.
So I think if you go by the democratic practices, yes, you are right in commenting that President Arif Alvi should have administered the oath to the cabinet, and not just the cabinet. If you recall, just a few days ago, when Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was supposed to take his oath as the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he suddenly said that he is experiencing some health issues, and due to which he will not be able to administer his oath. And then you're right that the chairman Senate had to come in as the acting president both the times. So yes, this I think is unfortunate because the president is supposed to be beyond party lines. And if I recall, President Mamnoon Hussain, who has passed away now, of the PMLN, he was the one who had administered the oath to Imran Khan when he became the president, when he became the prime minister in 2018. So I think if we go by the democratic norms and by the constitutional norms in particular, that should have been the case. But I think PTI right now wants to do whatever that it can to create a troublesome environment for the present government, be it in the sense of the president, Arif Alvi, because I think it needs a two-third of the majority of the parliament to oust the president of Pakistan, which obviously the present government does not have. And it needs a two-third majority of the entire parliament, by the way. It has to summon a joint session of the National Assembly and the Senate, and that has to be a two-third majority, which obviously the present regime does not have. So President Arif Alvi, I think, wants to take advantage, a political advantage of that fact, and he does not want to leave a vacant political space for their arch rival Maulana Fazlur Rahman, who happens to be the candidate of the present regime's presidentship, who happens to be their candidate of the president. So I don't think if I talk in political sense, yes, President Arif Alvi being a kind of stalwart to the PTI is doing the right thing. But if I talk constitutionally, this is absolutely wrong.
Right. Mona, I've heard that Nawaz Sharif is being given a diplomatic passport. There was somebody who'd filed a case and then the court said that nothing doing, he can be given a passport since he's a former prime minister and he can always come back to Pakistan. We're hearing that he'll come back after Eid. Now, even when he does not hold a constitutional position, I'm talking about Nawaz Sharif sir. Do you think it changes the political landscape of Pakistan? Because he is at least in Punjab, he's a major force. He's a huge force in Punjab, Nawaz Sharif. Now he's coming back. How does it impact the political fortunes of various players in Pakistan?
Okay, when we speak of Nawaz Sharif coming back and the likelihood of him coming back after Eid, we happened to meet Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif just a few days ago, a group of journalists, and I was there, and all of us did ask him about the return of Nawaz Sharif, and I mean, in my understanding, he kind of avoided that question. He avoided answering that question. and his party sources do say that he is not any likely to come back around Eid or after Eid. But having said that, this diplomatic passport issue, I mean, it was taken up in Islamabad High Court and it had dismissed that petition because the petitioner did not have a proof of any diplomatic passport being issued to Nawaz Sharif. But I think him being the prime minister, a three-time prime minister, elected prime minister of Pakistan, there is no issue if he is issued a diplomatic passport. Yes, the problem here is that he is convicted as we speak and he is wanted here by the courts of Pakistan. But you know, Pakistani landscape, Major Gaurav Arya, happens to be a very interesting place and a very interesting space. Anything can happen and everything can happen. So Nawaz Sharif, who was ousted in 2018, and suddenly all the decisions of the courts and the institutions were going against him and his party back in the day. Now they've suddenly turned tables. Now they're all apparently in favor of Nawaz Sharif and the PMLN, and now they're against the PTI, which happened to be the opposite case in 2018 when there was a huge wave in favor of the PTI and Imran Khan. So, politics in Pakistan is very uncertain. And yes, it does raise a lot of questions about how does this happen and why does it happen so.
All right. Now coming back to Imran Khan, very recently he was asked about the gifts. We've all heard about it that from the Tosha Khana that he was supposed to, and apparently, as per Pakistani law, if you're given any gift, and correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but here is what I understand from the Pakistani media, that if some foreign head of state gives you a gift, it gets deposited in the Tosha Khana, which is a repository for such gifts, and then at a fraction of the price, maybe 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever percent the government sets, you can buy back that gift, or the head of state can buy back that gift. Now, apparently what happened was Imran Khan bought it at a discounted price, which was as per the law. So in buying it at a discounted price, he did not break the law. But then the claims being made are that, in Dubai, these were sold at an inflated price. Now, what people are saying is that legally it may not be a criminal act, but ethically and morally it is, number one. Number two, Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said on record that, you should, if Imran Khan is wrong, first of all, he's not wrong. But if he is wrong, then you should prosecute Imran Khan. You should file a case against Imran Khan because he is innocent. But then Imran Khan himself says, mera tofa, meri marzi, which means that it's my wish if I wish to sell it in whatever price because it's mine. So legally Imran Khan is not wrong, is my understanding. So that is part one of the question. And part two, he also said that, all the Faujis have plots in, DHA, Defense Housing Societies in Pakistan, which are supposed to be very prime. And if they can have it, why can't I have this? So obviously the first question is, what do you think? Is it right or is it wrong? And number two, why is Imran Khan taking this stand against the Pakistani army that is so obviously and so publicly anti, why?
Okay, so if I answer the first part of your question, yes, the Tosha Khana scandal or this entire thing is going against Imran Khan, and you are absolutely right in interpreting that if he has taken those gifts at a certain percentage, which is by the law from the Tosha Khana, and your understanding of the Tosha Khana is very appropriate, if I may add that it is a certain depository. But yes, I would differ with Imran Khan on this basis that he says that those were gifts given to him. No, I think those are and always have been gifts given to the state of Pakistan and to the head of the state. So that having been said, I think he took those gifts at a certain percentage. This is not illegal, but there is another immoral aspect to which you two have highlighted, and which is very correct here. That he when he was questioned about these gifts by a citizen of Pakistan, he said that it's going to hurt national interests, and so we will choose to conceal these facts and we will choose not to speak about it. But if he goes off and if he sells off those items, which are apparently I think 112 items, and they do not include a certain Kalashnikov, a gold-plated Kalashnikov that was gifted to Imran Khan. So if I see them in totality, they're above 112 items. if they are all sold in an international market. So that, of course, as well hurts the impression and hurts those rulers who had given those gifts to Imran Khan. It's very demeaning and embarrassing for those rulers that they gave a certain gift to the state of Pakistan and those were sold off only for money, and that money was deposited in that in the individual's bank account. So I think it also hurts national interests in the same way, and it hurts in national interests in a rather in a rather worse way. It hurts them a lot more. So yes, those are immoral, but that is not illegal first. But the illegality of this is also in the fact that Imran Khan concealed receiving those gifts in his income tax returns. And he did not file those income tax returns until that citizen of Pakistan had questioned them about the gifts of Tosha Khana. That is when Imran Khan chose to reveal those gifts in his income tax returns, which of course does indicate a malafide of intent. And his wife, the former first lady, is also being accused in the same manner because she also did not file any income tax returns all throughout her life, um, except in 2021 when this particular question was made. So I think if I talk about concealment, if he possessed something monetarily and he chose he not to reveal those assets in his income tax returns, then I think the malafide also holds true for this particular case. Now I think if I also look at it constitutionally, I don't know, but I think 62, 63, the articles which are attributed to honesty and trustworthy for a certain ruler, Sadiq and Amin, as we call them here. So I think those also do not hold true if he chose to, conceal certain belongings and certain assets that he had in his multiple income tax returns. Also, the income tax returns that he had filed before being the prime minister and after being prime minister were inflated by, I think, 3,300%. His income tax returns had gone up. So this also, of course, comes as a surprise and a rather unpleasant surprise if I talk about Imran Khan, because his party equates him to Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And Muhammad Ali Jinnah, also speaks of himself being an unconventional politician. He says, "I'm not in the league of Nawaz Sharifs and Zardaris." Though they too have had Tosha Khana scandals to them, but their prime ministers have had Tosha Khana scandals to them. But Imran Khan, if he himself says that he is in the league of supreme leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, then Muhammad Ali Jinnah, if I recall, was the one who hid his tuberculosis for a good 1 year until it proved fatal for him, only for the well-being of Pakistan right after its creation in 1947. So if I want to consider Imran Khan right equivalent to Muhammad Ali Jinnah, then I would have expected Imran Khan to, even if he's selling off those gifts, to deposit that money in the national exchequer or probably deposit that money in the Shaukat Khanum proceeds. But that did not happen. He rather chose to have it for himself. So that answers, I think, the first part of your question. And the second
Yeah.
part of your question, him taking a dig repeatedly at the establishment, that holds very true, because once he came into power in 2018, we saw that they have all been flaunting about the hybrid regime and them being on one page and them being together. And he's also been mocking his political opponents for the fact that they do not enjoy the best of the relationships with the establishment, but Imran Khan does. So he did, mock his political opponents upon that fact. Things changed for the worse in November 2021 when that particular notification did not happen of the DGISI. And ever since then, I think it has gone downhill for Imran Khan and the establishment, and it just continues to go so. Imran Khan met a couple of reporters the other day, and he said that he concedes that he made certain mistakes. He filed the wrong reference against Justice Qazi Faizisa, number
Yes.
one, and he also said that he chose the election commissioner upon the wishes of establishment, whereas previously he's been on record in on praising the chief election commissioner when he was recently appointed, and his federal cabinet members like Shiri Mazari have also been on record in praising the chief election commissioner. Now all of a sudden they seem to be making such revelations. Those are, I think, a warning that they're signaling to the establishment that if they do not mend their ties with Imran Khan or with their party, or if their party receives a severe backlash in the foreign funding case, then Imran Khan can reveal more. So I think this is what he's trying to hint to the establishment when he talks about those plots, and when he talks about those particular mistakes apparently that he made in his political term, in his term as the prime minister. So, but I think this is unfortunate. It doesn't hold true only for Imran Khan. Even the PMLN and Nawaz Sharif, he spoke about the aliens, Khalai Makhluk, as he referred to them, when he was ousted in 2017. And he said that his fight is actually against the Khalai Makhluk. It's not against Imran Khan or Zardari or any of his political opponents. And now all of a sudden we see that, they're enjoying the best of the best relationships. That happens to be a distasteful angle to Pakistani politics. And I'm sorry, but it holds true for almost all of our politicians.
Mona ji, one question which is always this thing. I had not planned for this question, but since we are talking on this, like I have heard over a period of years, General Bajwa speaking in the Islamabad security dialogues, and we have a certain history. I'm talking about India. We have a certain history, and there is no doubt that at least the Indian army considers Pakistan army to be an enemy army, and General Bajwa to be the chief of an enemy army. But the fact of the matter is that when he talks, it's very statesmanlike. He talks common sense, and he talks things that are good for Pakistan. If at all in any utterance or any sentence he's anti-India, well, that's part of his job. I wouldn't expect anybody from India holding that position to be praising Pakistan. It doesn't happen. So we shouldn't judge General Bajwa that way. But whatever little I've heard of him, and I've been following him for 3 years, it's almost like he's giving a roadmap for the development of Pakistan. It's almost like he's saying that, geoeconomics, you should have regional stability, you should have regional peace, diplomacy. So here is an army chief who for 30, 40 years of his career has learnt only how to fight a war, but he is talking about diplomacy and economics. Why didn't Imran Khan listen to his army chief? This defies all logic, Mona ji, for me. For me, it defies logic, because had I been in Imran Khan's place, I would have told the chief that, okay, tell me, I'm willing to listen to you. Tell me, because the chief is talking a lot of sense, but Imran Khan never listened to him. Why is that?
Look, I do not agree with this entirely, because in the initial years of his tenure, Imran Khan and the army chief were very much on the same page, as I've mentioned earlier, and they were referred to as the hybrid regime. So that hasn't always been the case. Even I think the meetings with Middle Eastern rulers that had happened in the initial years of Imran Khan, or the initial months of Imran Khan's prime ministership, those I think those two were in harmony, in complete harmony and sync of the two leaders. I mean, the military leader and the civilian leadership. So that hasn't been the case always. I think they started having differences only after November 2021, if I may say this appropriately. And Imran Khan, yes, he took the anti-West narrative far too ahead. He answered that absolutely not in just a reply to a particular question, which I think Imran Khan did completely right. I mean, nobody would say that, okay, give away air bases and target somebody's civilian population in other countries or our own country. Nobody would say that. It was a blunder that Pakistan did in the past, in Musharraf's era, or even even in the civilian terms after that. It was a blunder. Nobody would say anything else to that question. And I think even army spokesperson, the DG ISPR, had come out very clear on this, that if that question was put up to us, we would have answered the same. Absolutely. But Imran Khan took it to another level. His party took it to another level. They were beating it about the bush. They repeatedly were honking horns about, we told America, absolutely not, absolutely not. It may look very appealing politically if I look at it. It may look very, attractive as a political fan or a listener of Imran Khan, that, oh, the only one leader who gave a shut up call to the West. But diplomatically it did not have the same impact on us. If actually I had to say an absolutely not, if a leader of Pakistan had to say absolutely not, he would say absolutely not in terms of his policies, rather than saying it blatantly in public rallies, or in front of a charged audience, it gives another altogether different impact. So I think the rift happened when the army chief saw that, that particular statement, a simple answer to a simple question, was, taken to another level by Imran Khan, only for certain political brownie points. I think this is where the rift happened, and of course, army chief was completely right in saying that, we should condemn what's happening in Ukraine. Fine if we condemn US bombings at the pretext of looking for weapons of mass destructions. We have always condemned those, but I don't think two wrongs will make a right. We must also condemn Ukrainian civilian population being attacked in the same manner by Russia. And also, in the meantime, our foreign policy doesn't have to be foreign policy, and diplomacy as a basic constituent has to be mellow. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be over the top. And this is what I think Imran Khan did as the biggest blunder. Also, I think he went over the top with Islamization. I mean, him being being a leader of a Muslim ummah, and him being, you know, uh, a vocal voice against Islamophobia. He took it to another political rhetoric. He did the right thing internationally, but I think he also went over the top with it. That I think also did not go around too well in uh, army circles or the circles of establishment, because we already have a very zealous, uh, religious, hyper religious population, and that doesn't give us good sentiment at all if I talk about it on a local domestic level, because we have to cater to and we have to address both the audience. Some things are very populist, some things do sound very appealing, but if I look at it in the longer run and for the well-being of any country, I don't think they do the right thing. So I think this is where things went south for Imran Khan.
Okay. Now, when Imran Khan was in power, he said that if I'm out of power, I'll become more dangerous. मैं और ज़्यादा खतरनाक हो जाऊंगा. This he said on record, and at that time he was the sitting Prime Minister of Pakistan. Now, very recently, The Guardian came out with an article, and they said that Pakistan is heading towards civil unrest, oblique civil war, because they see two parties clashing with each other. They see two sides. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf on one side and the opposition parties on another side, and maybe even the army is being dragged in by PTI people, including Imran Khan, with all those comments. They see this happening, but on ground, what is the situation in Pakistan? Because this could well be, selling newspaper copies. Civil war in Pakistan sounds very grand, but I don't think there is civil war in Pakistan. Yes, my personal assessment is, yes, there are problems, but it's nowhere near a civil war, because civil war is different meanings altogether.
I think I'd like to answer that in two parts, because first, if I talk about ground realities, as you've asked, ground realities, Imran Khan is garnering huge numbers in his rallies, and his popularity graph has increased many folds after his ouster. This is a fact, and we need to put it straight. Even this Hangu by-election that had happened just 2 days ago, that had also been in favor of the PTI and against the remaining of his opposition parties. Whereas, the voters knew that Imran Khan or his MNA may just resign immediately after winning this poll. So, electoral polls and especially the by-elections are a good indicators of popularity graph, and he is garnering huge numbers. First, he did this show in Peshawar and then in Karachi, and then he's now supposed to show up in Lahore, and he is, garnering good numbers. And many of his dissident voters who had gone against him due to, his governance being marred by corruption and illegalities and all forms of bads that could have been, and economic failures, governance failures, all of his dissident voters have kind of come back to him over this conspiracy theory, international conspiracy theory that has been peddled by Imran Khan and the PTI. So the numbers are huge, and Imran Khan has always been a kind of a magnet for his cult followers, which happen to be many here in Pakistan, and not just in Pakistan, even overseas. This I must admit, and everybody who's a neutral opinionated person should concede this. So when he says that I'm going to become more dangerous, when he says that I'm going to become, khatarnak, this is exactly what he was referring to, because he knows that he has a crowd and he is a crowd puller, and he can ask that particular crowd to go in a certain direction. That direction, I think, as of now, is against the institutions also, because he seems to be coming out very vocal against the courts of Pakistan. He's also not naming the establishment. He's not naming any army generals, but yes, he's coming out very vocal against them as well. And this is what exactly this message, by the way, back in the day when he said that I'm going to turn more dangerous, was not against his political opponents. This was directed towards the establishment, and he is, I think, going in the same manner. He's trying to walk the talk, as to what he had said about himself. I don't see that that I don't I wouldn't say that it was a tall claim, because Imran Khan has managed to attract a huge audience. But if you say that civil war, this is the second part of my answer, because some of his very close people in the party, who do not happen to be stalwarts of the party, who happen to be newcomers in the party, and who happen to be turncoats from other parties and have recently joined ranks with him, are the ones who are misguiding him. I'd say that very clear, because those were the ones who told Imran Khan not to, resign on the 3rd of April when the no confidence voting was about to happen. And they told Imran Khan to take a legal misadventure that had proved extremely dangerous and distasteful for his entire party and their wisdom, legal wisdom. So those were the ones who told Imran Khan to go towards misadventures. Those turncoats are also trying to look for places within other parties, within the PMLN, within the People's Party. They're trying to seek spaces, seek vacancies in other parties. But on the face of it, they're double-faced. They're hypocritically also calling themselves champions of Imran Khan and mujahids of Imran Khan. So I think those individuals are the ones who actually want a civil unrest or a civil war to take place and to transform this entire movement into a civil war. But I tell you, if this happens, Imran Khan will be in a far more deeper pit than he is as of now, because that will put him in a further confrontational zone with the institutions of Pakistan, and that will absolutely, I think, damage his political standing. And probably those individuals, those turncoats whom Imran Khan is paying a lot of heed these days, uh, this is what they want in the first place. They, I think, are the ones who are chameleons in his party, and apparently they tell him that they're his well-wishers, but in reality, they're doing him more damage than any good. So those are the ones who want this to turn into a civil war, and this is, I think, only to hurt Imran Khan further than what he's already hurt now.
Thank you very much, Monaji, for your time. It was wonderful talking to you. Friends, with Mona Alamji, she joins us from Islamabad. She's a journalist, and she laid, she explained to us perfectly what is happening inside Pakistan, Imran Khan's face-off with the army, and what is actually happening in Pakistan right now. How does the future look for Pakistan, about overseas Pakistanis, and this massive fan following that Imran Khan seems to have in Pakistan, and how he's actually becoming more dangerous, just like he predicted. Thank you very much for watching, and before I go, a request: please like, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon. That will encourage us a lot. Monaji, thank you for your time. Jai Hind.
हाँ जी, तो वीडियो जो है वो ख़त्म हो चुकी है और वीडियो में ये काफ़ी ना देर से चर्चा में है ये बात कि तोशा खाना की जो गिफ्ट थे वो एक हार की बात हो रही है। और उसके अलावा जो है इस वीडियो में तो हमें पता चला ना कि वो गोल्ड प्लेटेड जो है वो AK-47 गन थी और इस तरह की कुछ चीज़ें। तो मैं यहाँ पे ये बात थोड़ी सी ऐड करता चलूँ कि पहले एक बार हो चुका है, मैं नाम लेना मुनासिब नहीं समझूंगा, कि एक हार इसी तरह ना ये खुद रूल बनाए जाते हैं ना कि एक मिनिस्टर ने मतलब ये कहा था कि मैं मेरे वो तोहफा मिला है तो उसने उसका रेट रख दिया कि 10% जो है वो तोशा खाना को जमा करवाएंगे, बाकी जो है वो फर्ज करो अब 10% को कीमत नहीं होती। देखें आपको बेसिकली जो गिफ्ट मिल रहा होता है वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर को तो मिल ही रहा होता है, लेकिन वो स्टेट को मिल रहा होता है ना, गवर्नमेंट को मिल रहा होता है। तो नए आने वाले जो दे रहे होते हैं वो यही दे रहे होते हैं ना कि एक दोस्ती का हाथ बढ़ा रहे होते हैं कंट्री की तरफ से कि अच्छा 20 नंबर पे, 22 नंबर पे, 25 नंबर पे एक बंदा आया है इस कंट्री का, तो उसकी मुबारकबाद के लिए कुछ ना कुछ दे रहे हैं। तो जाहिर सी बात है पाकिस्तान भी तो ऐसे देता होगा ना अपनी दोस्त कंट्रीज को, कुछ ना कुछ देता होगा तोहफा। तो वैसे लगता नहीं है, मैंने कभी सुना नहीं है, लेकिन हो सकता है देता हो।
नहीं,
तो
ये रीत बरकरार है, क्योंकि जब कोई भी कंग्रेचुलेशन होता है ना किसी, जब आप किसी के घर जाते हैं किसी को मुबारकबाद देने के लिए तो खाली हाथ नहीं जाते।
तो
यहाँ कुछ उल्ट है कि जब आप किसी के घर जाते हैं तो आप खाली हाथ वापस नहीं आते,
आप कुछ लेके आते
आते
तो
उस लेने के चक्कर में इमरान खान को थोड़ा ना मुश्किलात का सामना
नहीं,
करना पड़ रहा है।
ऐसे हुआ था कि पहले वो उन्होंने रखा ना कि 10% मतलब एक लॉ पास कर दिया कि जी 10% या 20% जितने भी वो दे के तोशा खाना को जमा करवा के वो उसके मालिक जितनी भी हो वो खुद उसका हकदार बन सकता है या उसको बेच के उसके पैसे खुद रख सकता है या वगैरह वगैरह बाकी बातें ये भी। तो उसी को मद्देनजर रखते हुए लेकिन इमरान खान के यहाँ पे जो टैक्स इनकम टैक्स का जो फाइल ना होना, क्योंकि पहले तो प्रॉपर फाइल कर रहे थे और फिर उनकी जो भी बीवी आती गई उनका भी सारी लाइफ में उनका वो टैक्स रिटर्न जमा ना होना, ठीक है, क्या पाया क्या खोया क्या कुछ भी नहीं। तो ये चीजें, लेकिन एक और चीज
टैक्स दे वो बंदा,
एक और चीज होती है ना
बीवियों वाली एक लंबी लिस्ट है, कोई आ रही है कोई जा रही है, उसका क्या टैक्स
एक और चीज होती है कि अब वो उसने बेच दी है और उसकी इनकम टैक्स जो है वो फाइल नहीं हुआ था, जमा नहीं हुआ था। तो वीडियो में तो ये बताया गया 33% या 3300 के राउंड अबाउट जो है वो इंक्रीज हुआ है वो जो है जो भी माल प्रेजेंट जब तक वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर रहे उस दौरान में। तो इस हवाले से जनाब अगर देखा जाए तो ये जो गिफ्ट बेचे गए हैं तो अब इमरान खान कह रहा है कि मैंने मेरे गिफ्ट मेरी मर्जी, तो मैं जो मर्जी करूं ये वो वगैरह वगैरह। तो बातें पता क्या होती है यार, मैं किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हूँ, पर बात बातें होती है कि बंदा ज्यादा शोखा हो जाता है, बंदा कहता है कि मुझे मिल गया मैं पता नहीं क्या
ऐसा
कर दूंगा।
नहीं, आप देखें, आप
लास्ट टाइम मैं हार की बात कर रहा था, मिनिस्टर साहब हमारे हैं तो उन्होंने कहा जी वो तो हार चोरी हो गया, अब मिनिस्टर के घर से हार चोरी हो गया और फिर वो इतनी बदनामी बनी, उसका वो 10% भी जमा नहीं करवाया था ना।
अच्छा,
तो वो उसकी बीवी के गले से ना वो रिकवर हो गया एक पार्टी पे ना जनाब, वो उसकी बीवी के गले से रिकवर हो गया। तो फिर वो बेइज्जती, लेकिन अपनी बेइज्जती लोग भूल जाते हैं।
आप और मोना जी ने तो ठीक ठाक इमरान खान को डिफेंड किया है और इमरान खान का ठीक ठाक
नहीं डिफेंड नहीं किया उन्होंने, मेरा ख्याल है डिफेंड नहीं किया उन्होंने प्रॉपर आंसर किए हैं कि जो
इस तरह नहीं होते ना, आप देखिए
उन्होंने ये कहा है कि जो लॉ के खिलाफ नहीं है वो बात तो ठीक है, आइन के खिलाफ नहीं है कि 10% या 20% रख दिया तो वो उन्होंने बेच दिया तो लॉ के खिलाफ नहीं है।
मुझे ये बताएं, अब एक बंदा प्राइम मिनिस्टर बन गया किसी कंट्री का, अब वो बाहर जा रहा है तो वो जो गिफ्ट मिलने वाला है क्या उसको मिल रहे हैं?
यार वो बात ठीक है, लेकिन पहले भी तो सेल होते आए ना, इमरान खान ने कोई नई बात नहीं की।
सेल होते आ रहे हैं तो वो तोशा खान में क्यों नहीं जमा हुए?
10% या 20% जमा हुए हैं ना?
नहीं हुए यार
10% या 20% जमा हुए हैं, कोई मसला नहीं है। मसला यहाँ पे एक और चीज है, जो वीडियो में बात हुई कि जब 2018 में गवर्नमेंट आ रही थी इमरान खान की तो ममनून हुसैन सदर था, तो सदर को मतलब किसी ने कुछ नहीं कहा, ठीक है। अभी तो इमरान खान जब बन रहा था प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो ममनून हुसैन ने मतलब नहीं पार्टिसिपेट किया या तबीयत खराब ये वो। इसी तरह पीटीआई का अभी भी मतलब प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो बदल गया है, लेकिन सदर जो है वो अभी भी आरफ अलवी चल रहा है और आरफ अलवी ने भी यही कहा कि जी मेरी तबीयत खराब है तो मैं नया आने वाले प्राइम मिनिस्टर की जो है वो जो भी उसकी होती है वो क्या होता है फंक्शन प्रोटोकॉल सेरेमनी, तो उसमें मैं नहीं शरीक हो सकता, ये मेरा मसला वो मसला है। तो अब जो है वो 1/3 को तो पहले बताया कि नहीं 1/3 का नहीं, मेरे ख्याल है 1%
इसमें बात
आरफ अलवी का जो है, एक मिनट सुने, 1% जो है वो
आप ये
पीटीआई।
मिसाल क्यों नहीं, आप फिर परसेंटेज और 1% 2%
मेरी
की
सिर्फ
बात
बात
कर रहे
सुने
हैं।
ना, बात सुने।
आप देखें मोदी जी की बात देखें, उन्हें कितने गिफ्ट मिलते हैं।
उन्होंने तो सारे के सारे पैसे दे दिए ना,
देखो
सारे पैसे।
यार ये एक बात
हाँ, ये बात एक और चीज है
होता
ना,
इस
एक
तरह
और
का।
चीज है, वो अपनी फैमिली को लेके नहीं चल रहे ना, वो देश को लेके चल रहे हैं। अगर फैमिली को लेके चलते
कितनी
होते
फैमिली है, क्या इमरान
यार,
खान बड़ा
इनकी
बंदा है क्या,
इनकी
इनके पास कुछ नहीं है खाने को?
हमारे यहाँ पे पता है मसला क्या है, हमारे यहाँ पे मसला ये है कि जो कुछ भी कमाना है, मतलब आपके पास 7 नस्लों के लिए भी खाना है ना, 7 नस्लों के लिए भी पैसा है, तो आपने पता है क्या करना है, आपने कहना है आने वाली कुछ 14 नस्लों के लिए भी हो जाए, ठीक है। आपने अपनी कब्र वो भर लेनी है और खुद चले जाना है। मतलब सारा जो जितनी देर, मतलब कहने का मतलब ये है कि जितनी देर बंदा जिंदा है ना, तब तक उसने ना ऐसे मांगने वाला हाथ किए रखना है कि
यही तो
डाल
गलत
दो
है ना,
डाल दो
इसी
डाल
बात
दो,
को इसी
ठीक है।
बात को तो ठीक से एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया गया ना इधर। हालांकि मोना जी को कहना चाहिए था कि
जैसे मोदी जी ने सारे
रोंग का लफ्ज एक यूज होना चाहिए था।
कंट्री वाइज जो है ना, उन्होंने बात की आयन के मुताबिक, कंट्री वाइज भी हर कंट्री के रूल होते हैं। अब मोदी जी ने जो सारा किया, जो भी उन्होंने लास्ट टाइम हमने वीडियो देखी, गुजरात के वो थे सीएम थे, तो वहां से निकले तो सारा कुछ बेच दिया, तो ऐसे करके तो सारे पैसे जितने भी उसके आए वो सारा
तो है ना ऐसे। अब
कर
इंडिया
दिया।
मोदी जी को आउट ऑफ कंट्री से इधर उधर से आने जाने से
यार
विजिट करने बहुत कुछ मिलता है,
लेकिन
लेकिन अब वो सारा कुछ अपने पास रखते जाएं और उसका परसेंटेज भी ना तोशा खान में जमा कराएं तो लोग उन्हें लाइक करेंगे। जिस तरह लोग आजकल उन्हें लाइक कर रहे हैं, ऐसे लोग उन्हें लाइक नहीं करेंगे।
इसी तरह बात हुई कि अब जो है आरफ अलवी का जो है वो तकरीबन 1% जो है वो लोग उसको मान रहे हैं, बाकी 2% जो है वो मौलाना हजरत अल्लामा मौलाना डीजल रहमतुल्लाह अलैह को जो है वो बनाना चाह रहे हैं सदर पाकिस्तान। तो यार मैं किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हूँ। 22 साल एक बंदा जो गवर्नमेंट में रहा, मुख्तलिफ गवर्नमेंट चेंज कर करके, मुख्तलिफ भेस बदल बदल के गवर्नमेंट की रहायश में रहा, ठीक है। हम क्या सोचते हैं, हमें सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट का प्रोटोकॉल चाहिए, 2 गाड़ियां आगे पुलिस की हो, 2 गाड़ियां पीछे पुलिस रेंजर की हो, आर्मी का प्रोटोकॉल हो,
सब प्रोटोकॉल के लिए
तो
सब
प्रोटोकॉल हो। इसके अलावा हमें कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता कि भाई हमने बेड़ा गर्क किया है देश का या क्या कर दिया है हमने, हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
मैं कहता हूँ अपोजिशन के लिए एक छोटी बात है, आते ही उन्होंने ये इशू क्रिएट कर दिया कि वो जी ऐसे चीज मिली तोशा खान में जमा। भाई आप कुछ करना चाहो तो फिर है ना।
सुने जैसे कि लास्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर के वो सेल पूरे हो गए, बैटरी पे चार्ज होने वाले सेल जो है वो पूरे कम हो गए, तो उनकी बैटरियां तो यूके में पड़ी हुई थी, तो वो उन्होंने कहा कि जी अब तो मेरी बैटरी यूके में है, तो मैं तो वहां पे पाकिस्तान में
सुना
वही सुना, मतलब
के बाद वो भी
तशरीफ ला रहे हैं। अब बैटरियां साथ में नहीं लेके आएंगे, बैटरियां वहीं पे छोड़ के आएंगे, रिमोटवा लेके आएंगे पीके वाला, ठीक है। तो फिर कहेंगे कि जनाब ये मेरा रिमोटवा है, यहाँ पे चोरी हो गया है, अब मैं नया रिमोटवा बनवाने जा रहा हूँ, तो ये चीज होती है। अब यहाँ पे बात ये है कि मसला खराब हो गया, गला अभी भी ठीक नहीं है, प्रॉपर बोला नहीं जा रहा। अब यहाँ पे मसला ये है कि जब हवा चलती है ना, किसी के खिलाफ हो तो उसकी छोटी छोटी बातें पकड़ के उस पर केस बनाए जाओ। जब उसका टाइम गुजर जाए, ठीक है, नवाज शरीफ पे कितने केस बने, वो कह रहा था, पीट रहा था, मुझे क्यों निकाला, ये अदालत वो फौज ये फौज। अब टाइम गुजर गया, अब वही फौज है, सारा कुछ वही है, वही अदालतें, सारा
यही तो मैं
अब
कह रहा
वो
हूँ,
वापस आ
ये
अब इमरान खान भी जब आ रहा था तब सारा कुछ वो उसके बयान थे कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट के हुक्म को, फैसले को मानना चाहिए, फलां के फैसले को मानना चाहिए। अभी वो कह रहा है कि फलां काजी बिक गया, फलां बिक गया, फलां वो हो गया।
एक मिनट, फिर आप किसके साथ चलना पसंद करेंगे इधर?
भाई मैं तो
सारे तो ऐसे ही हैं।
भाई मैं तो खुद के साथ चलना पसंद करूंगा। मैं तो खुद सोच रहा हूँ कि यार क्यों ना के हो और हो कुछ ना हो
यार, सब मिले हुए हैं। ये देखो, हर बंदा हजरत है, हर बंदा अपने घर के लिए, अपने पेट के लिए जी रहा है और उसे किसी की कोई फिक्र नहीं है। अगर आप इमरान खान की पहली वाली वीडियो देखें, प्राइम मिनिस्टर बिफोर प्राइम मिनिस्टर, तो वो देखेंगे वापडा के बिल जला दिए, इतना कुछ, इतना हल्ला गुल्ला और इतना ज़्यादा नुकसान वगैरह वगैरह। और आफ्टर में वो क्या कह रहा है कि अब जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले नहीं मानेगा वो गद्दार है, वो मुनाफिक है, वो हुकूमत को ख़राब करना चाह रहा है। अब वो सारा कुछ खुद रिपीट कर रहा है, एक बात। दूसरा, जब आप जो अपोजिशन है अब बड़े झंडे लहरा रही है, आप जब इनकी बातें देखें तो इनकी हुकूमत के अंदर बहुत सारे ऐसे
यार
कांड
उन्होंने
है।
खुद
एक
कहा था एक दूसरे को, जो अभी गवर्नमेंट इकट्ठी हुई है, कि मैं फलाह को जो है ऑन द रिकॉर्ड पड़ा हुआ है, जरदारी को जो है वो कराची की सड़कों पे नंगा घुमाऊंगा, लटा दूंगा सड़कों पे, ये कर दूंगा वो कर दूंगा। तो पता नहीं, मुझे समझ नहीं आती कि इक़्तिदार क्या चीज
आपको
है,
समझ
इतनी
आ जानी
पावर है यार
चाहिए,
इस
पावर
कुर्सी
नहीं
में।
है इस
ठीक
कुर्सी
है,
में। नशा ही ऐसा है कि जब आप
आप जमीर बेच देते हैं यार, समझ से बाहर है कि आप जमीर बेच देते हैं। अच्छा, हम गुर्बत, इमरान खान ने महंगाई की थी, हम ये कर देंगे वो कर देंगे, ठीक
दुनिया
है।
जी रही थी,
तो
एक मिनट, दुनिया इस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जी रही थी, लोग इस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जी रहे थे कि हमारे अच्छे दिन आएंगे, कभी आएंगे। लेकिन अब ये जो हुआ, मैं ये चाहता हूँ कि नून लीग ने और बाकी पार्टियों ने जमा होकर जो मुश्किलें क्रिएट की हैं अपने फ्यूचर के लिए, वो इन्हें 1 साल बाद या 1.5 साल बाद पता चलेंगी। क्योंकि जो उसका जो कैरियर था इमरान खान का, उसे वो पूरा कर लेने देते, लोगों ने खुद ब खुद उस बंदे का साथ छोड़ देना था, उससे नफरत होना शुरू हो जानी थी। अब इन लोगों ने उसके जो क्राइटेरिया के अंदर देखे ना, उसके अंदर हाँ घुसने के बाद उसे मसीहा बना दिया है। अब हर बंदा उसकी हर बंदे के दिल में उसके लिए हमदर्दी आ गई है, उसके लिए सड़कों पे निकल रहे हैं। आपने नहीं देखा पिछले रमजान मुबारक में कितना कुछ इमरान खान ने खुद करवाया था, कितने अटैक करवाए थे, कितना शेलिंग करवाई थी, कितने जलसे बंद करवाए थे, कितना लोगों को रोड पे आने पे शहीद करवाया था। आज ही खुद लोगों को लेकर रोड पर आ रहा है। आज अगर इसके साथ कुछ ऐसा होगा तो आप क्या एक्सेप्ट करते हैं कि ये हालात ठीक रहेंगे?
नहीं, मुल्क के
ठीक नहीं होने
मुल्क के
वाला।
हालात जो है ना वो खराब कर ही जा रहे हैं, ठीक है। इनको कुछ फिक्र नहीं पड़ी कि क्या
और
हो।
हमारा मीडिया
यार
बिका
लास्ट
हुआ
टाइम
है,
एक और चीज
हमारा
है
मीडिया, आप देखें हमारा मीडिया बिका हुआ है
यार,
हर
लास्ट
चीज।
टाइम
एक चैनल है, मेरी बात
नमाज
सुनो।
पढ़ते हुए मैं
एक
देख रहा
चैनल,
था, इनको सारे नाम निहादी मिनिस्टर थे, यकीन माने किसी को ये नहीं पता था कि
छोड़े,
मौलवी
इनको
के
पता
पीछे
नहीं
नमाज
है,
कैसे पढ़नी है।
इनको ऐसी बातों का पता नहीं है। लेकिन आप देखें मीडिया के अंदर जान होती है। मीडिया किसी भी मुल्क की जो मीडिया होती है ना, उसके अंदर पावर होती है, वो कि हर चौधरी को ठीक कर देती है। लेकिन अब मीडिया खुद बिका हुआ है। एक चैनल आसमान पे लिए जा रहा है नून लीग को, एक
दूसरा
चैनल
चैनल पीटीआई को लिए जा रहा है,
आसमान पे लिए जा रहा है, एक चैनल बैठकर पीटीआई को काफिर काफिर कही जा रहा है, दूसरा चैनल नून लीग को काफिर काफिर कही जा रहा है, कोई फजल रहमान को काफिर बोले जा रहा है, कोई किसी को बोले जा रहा है। भाई मीडिया ने तो लोगों को घुमाया हुआ है। आप देखें, बाहर निकलें, जब सड़कों पे देखते हैं, आप मोहल्लों में देखते हैं, आप दुकानों पे देखते हैं, किराना स्टोर पर देखते हैं, जब में गफीर होता है और चैनल पर मीडिया को सुना जा रहा होता है, किसी एंकर की बातें सुनी जा रही होती हैं। और होता क्या है, वही बातें घिसी पिटी, वो जो 2 साल पहले थी वही दोबारा रिपीट हो
अच्छा
रही है।
अब क्या होगा जी, गुर्बत खत्म हो जाएगी, ये 1.5 साल में मैं देखता हूँ कितनी की महंगाई कम करते हैं। अगर करेंगे भी तो वो क्या
कम
कहते
नहीं
हैं, फार्मूला
होगी,
बी लगा
बढ़ जाएगी,
फार्मूला बी लगा के इलेक्शन
आप
जीतने के लिए
सब
सारा
स्टडी
कुछ।
पे पेट्रोल हमें मिल रहा है, सब स्टडी पे। अगर ये सब स्टडी ना हो तो पेट्रोल हम 200 पर लीटर लें।
अच्छा, आज याद आया मुझे, मैं बड़ी देर हो गई थी ना, पापा सारा राशन लेते, चीनी लेने गया शॉप पे, तो पता चला जी 100 रुपये किलो है। तो
आप
मैं
खुशकिस्मत है, आपको 100 रुपये मिल गई है। रेट बढ़ गया है, 100 रुपये से ज़्यादा हो गया है जनाब।
मैं 2 किलो लेनी थी, जब मेरी जेब से 200 रुपया गया तो मैं सोचने लग गया, मैंने कहा यार 700-800 रुपये दिहाड़ी, मतलब चलो जैसे भी करके वो
और
दिहाड़ी वाले हिसाब में मरा। और
500 रुपये किलो घी है भाई।
हाँ,
निकलते हैं।
हमारा तो वही ना, मतलब वो 21-20 जो भी तनख्वाह है थोड़ी बहुत, उसमें से मैं सोच रहा था कि मेरी तो 700-800 रुपये वो बनती है, तो उसमें से अगर मैं 2 किलो चीनी लेता हूँ तो घी डाल वाल के, तो मेरा तो मतलब हो गया ना, मैं बिजली के बिल सारा कुछ कहाँ से ये
और आपका तो ये हो गया। और इधर हमारे भाईजान है जो हमें देखने वाले हैं, उनसे सिर्फ इतना नहीं होता कि वो जो सब्सक्राइब वाला बटन है ना, उसे ऐसे क्लिक कर दें।
खैर जी, ये जैसे वो कहते हैं कि इतनी महंगाई थी तब भी गरीब जो है कुछ मर रहे थे, कुछ चल रहे थे, तो अब भी वही हाल होना है, चलता रहेगा।
ये रोने तो चलते रहेंगे। आप 1 साल बाद भी देखेंगे तो पाकिस्तानी अवाम के यही रोने होंगे। आप 10 साल बाद भी देखेंगे,
गवर्नमेंट चाहे कोई भी आ गई, फेवरेट तरीन गवर्नमेंट भी आ गई ना, तो भी यही हाल होता होगा।
आप देख सकते हैं कि अंधा एतबार किया जा रहा है पीटीआई पे, और दूसरी तरफ
अंधा तबार किया जा रहा है
अंधे
दूसरी
को भी
पार्टी से।
थर्ड डिग्री लगाकर, अंधे को भी थर्ड डिग्री लगाकर शेर के
अगर
नारे लगे,
अगर
लोली
मसीह
के नारे
है तो
लगे।
वही है, जो ऊपर मिनिस्टर बैठे ना वही है। हम में तो मसीहा है ही नहीं, हमारा मसीहा मर गया, जो खुद के अंदर है ना वो मर गया, वो तो बिल्कुल जमीर नाम की चीज ही नहीं है। ठीक है, तो ये चीजें हैं, जब तक जमीर नहीं आएगा, एजुकेशन नहीं आएगी, तालीम नहीं आएगी, शऊर नहीं आएगा, तब तक होने वाला कुछ नहीं है। तो
सारे
ये
प्रोजेक्ट तमीराती काम सारे के सारे रुके पड़े हैं। जहाँ कोई यूनिवर्सिटी तमीर हो रही थी वो वैसे की वैसे पड़ी है। ननकाना साहब के अंदर गुरु नानक यूनिवर्सिटी तमीर होना शुरू हुई है और वो अब उसकी ब्रेक लग गई है। और मेरे ख्याल में ये 1.5 साल जो ये हुकूमत है इसमें उसकी एक ईंट भी नहीं लगेगी। और अगले 5 साल में वो पता नहीं क्या होने वाला है। यही तो पाकिस्तान के हालात हो चुके हैं। सड़क जो बन रही थी, जो टूटी है, वो टूटी अभी तक, वो वैसे की वैसे रह जाएगी। क्या लोगों
आज
को
तो
फायदा
खैर
मिलेगा?
मिलेंगे नेक्स्ट वीडियो के साथ, तब तक के लिए हमें दीजिए इजाजत। अल्लाह
अल्लाह
हाफिज।
हाफिज।